Hello, everyone. Okay, so I went back through, and what was just going to be one video has now turned into four. And I'll say, I'm going to wrap this up, and then it just goes on, and then it cuts me off. And the reason I'm not editing any of this out, even when I lose my train of thought, is that I think it's important to just not be a perfectionist. I've talked about this so many times in so many videos, so I won't go on too much about that, but I think it's good in my own practice just to put it out there. One of the best things that I've seen from watching other people is that they don't put out garbage. It's thought out, there's useful information in it, but they just keep rolling. And it reminds me of the story actually when I was a kid. I overheard these people talking. It was at a dance performance, and this mom was talking to another mom. She was telling her how she told her daughter, even if something happens with your costume, you just kick it to the side and you just keep moving. And when you make a mistake, you don't just make a big deal out of it. You recover quickly, and you keep rolling. I mean, because what's important is that you do the project. And part of creativity and part of the inspiration that I feel when I make these videos, and what I'm going to say next, comes actually I'm finding out of my mistakes and out of the thing not working, or then I'll have to go and delete some stuff, or I'll get distracted, move around the room, and get a new intuitive insight. So I also wanted to talk a little bit about how I think I mentioned in another reading or another video about how some people feel like it's just too fleeting. You pull cards, you try to get this intuition, and it's constantly moving and it's constantly changing. How to kind of keep track of it so that it's not, because it is constantly, everything's constantly evolving and changing and growing and morphing. But how to get some consistency out of it by having rules. Like the number of times you see something is an indicator is a good way to do that. Writing it down reinforces it. By observing it and appreciating it, you see more synchronicity in your life. When you do a reading, keep it out for a minute or take a picture of it, and in that way, the meaning doesn't constantly shift and change. And I also wanted to say what's interesting is you'll set aside, you'll do a reading, you'll lay out the cards, you'll leave them there, or maybe you'll take a picture because you still need to use the cards, and you will go out into your day and into your experience, and things will happen that really clarify and clear up the meaning of the reading. And so I wanted to just to mention that. So if you wanted more clarity about what a person's reading meant, or a reading that you've done for yourself, one thing is to tune in and then let it go. Like, receive the messages that are being presented to you at the moment. Tune in and then let it go. And then let confirmation show up in your physical environment. As it pertains to the question. And also the clarity of your question has a lot to do with the clarity of and your desire to know of the clarity of the universal guidance. But you got to be able to raise your frequency, because this guidance is always taking place on this high vibrational frequency. Have skills, have tools set aside that work for you and your personality in particular. And that's one of the things I do in coaching, is I help people identify what their personality type is, maybe what their life path number is. I have a whole bunch of different metrics and what I call lenses for seeing, this person that you are in this lifetime, and therefore how you might interact with your intuition, and how you might set up systems and tools that really fit and work for you based on the information that we get, that just flow really naturally, so it's not a chore, and personal growth doesn't have to be hard, and it can be really fun as you see these changes happening because you're doing it in a way that's best fitting for you. And so I think that that's something really important, is to raise your vibrational frequency so that you're able to hear the signal that's coming in. And Abraham Hicks always says the reason that you want something is because you think that it will make you feel better. Well, if you had it and make yourself feel better, and then you're going to be on the frequency, and then you're going to line up with it. And I also like that they talk about taking the contrast and pivoting from it. So like when, let's just say you're following the signs and you're seeing a lot of 111, and you kind of have been following the synchronicity, and something not so great happens. Well, that's okay. Maybe what that experience is doing is helping you clarify in greater detail and in more powerful specificity what it is that you want. And then the universe will just recalibrate to take you to your desired destination, which is always good. And at least that's my perspective. And so that was something that I want to talk about, is that sometimes opening up their reading, if you do readings for yourself, or giving it a minute after you tune in, and letting the information in your environment or the people that show up and how things kind of play out, and look at it with non-judgment, just awareness of what's happening. And remind yourself, because sometimes the reason that we keep pulling, we get these signs and information and messages about what to do, we're being guided, but then we feel like we're not ready. So we start to like sabotage, our upper limits come into play, where we are like, oh, that looks weird. It's important to follow the signs and follow your intuition, and also to know that what it is that you've been trying to manifest and create might show up differently than you had originally anticipated. And it might look different. So when things do show up, it doesn't mean that you need to settle for imperfect manifestations. Be very clear on what you want. You don't have to settle out of scarcity thinking. But keep in mind that it might show up differently, and all that's ever really happening, another thing that Marianne Williamson says, is what's happening. So you want to make the most of the opportunities that are presenting themselves in your here and now. And don't just reject opportunities and the things that come to you without really looking at them and considering them. Like that guy who was in the flood, and he prays for God to help him, and he sends a boat and all this stuff, but he dies because he denies everything. God's like, I sent you a boat, I sent you a helicopter, like what do you want me to do? And so I think that God's a little bit more compassionate than that. It's hard to be human. Sometimes we get confused, but that's where raising our energy, and the more we understand ourselves, the more we can customize and create a lifestyle design that really supports our interests and frees up that intellectual, intuitive bandwidth to receive information. So I just wanted to mention that also, is that sometimes your answer shows up differently than you thought. I'm going to end this before it ends. I think I've covered a lot of different things in this series. It was fun kind of knocking it out. Thanks for tuning in. If you know anyone who could benefit from this, let me know. And hopefully you got some insights and some tidbits of useful information from these videos. I did want to do, you know what? I think I'm just going to, I'm going to talk about, right before I'm done here, I just want to cover some intuitive access reception points. So if you're a clairsentient person, you get gut feelings, you often identify with as being an empath, you feel frequently overwhelmed by the emotions of others. Take Epsom salt baths. Imagine a colorful coat surrounding you. Protect your energy on a regular basis. And also, when people are coming at you with negative, intense energy, put your hand over your solar plexus, you know? And also really orient your body on a regular basis. Stand in power positions. Really ground yourself. Pay attention to your feet. Get in your body and feel your body. And pay attention to this area right here. This is where your solar plex is. This is your reception area. Keep in mind it's the easiest to turn on and the hardest to turn off. So if you're finding that you're becoming overly overwhelmed, but you still want to be able to tune into your intuition, I'm a clairaudient, and so imagine right here, like right where the temporal lobes are, big cones going out and receiving intuitive sounds and impressions. Something that you can do is just sit quietly and listen to all the sounds, the subtle, what's just below the surface, and just listen. This can be one of the harder ones to turn on, but the clarity can be undeniable. If you are naturally a clairaudient person, be aware of the fact that you are likely to overwhelm people with your intense intellectual energy, especially people who feel from this space, who are clairsentient. And so you're going to want to physically kind of think of directing your energy past them, so you're not like flooding them like it's a fire hose or something, you know, of your intellectual ideas and information. If you are a clairvoyant, your reception area is right here. What you can do to open up this area is do and I learned that from Doreen Virtue. And imagine, you know, the light coming through here and out your third eye. You really benefit from the visual descriptions in guided imagery. You tend to be really good at packing and planning and organizing, but you can get very attached to how you see things in your mind's image, so just be aware of that. But you probably have a strength for seeing the trajectory of things and how they're all going to lay out and go. But if you do a lot of guided imagery, you can really open up that intuitive reception area. And you can just take a situation or something and close your eyes, maybe hold a crystal, and see which images or visual impressions come into your mind. But when you're trying to focus on it, breathe deeply and just allow it to happen. You don't want to try too hard. This is natural. This is how you are designed. So don't be too hard on yourself about it. If you're claircognizant, focus on the spot like right on your head and think upwards. It's going to occur to you as quick thoughts, just quick mental impressions. So just try to like and accept and understand that you likely are not the world's biggest planner. You like to be in motion. You figure things out as you go along. Accept and understand that about yourself, but also get in it. Rummage around in it. Move the parts around. Think about it. Maybe as you're working on a project, in that book, You Are Psychic, awesome book. Think upwards. These are a lot of the ideas that he talks about in there, and I really like the book. It's very comprehensive. It's very well laid out in identifying your reception areas, skills and exercises for utilizing them or changing them. And I think it is a really, really helpful tool in making decisions, because, you know, if we're going to invest a lot of time, energy, or money into something, get guidance. In the course, it talks about not making decisions on your own, just like all by yourself. Like, there's infinite intelligence available to you at all times. It's free. Tap into it. You know, this is just a helpful skill-based resource that you can develop and expand on. And I hope that that was helpful. And if you know anyone who could benefit from any of these tools or exercises or this perspective, let me know. And I'm going to be doing private coaching and custom guided imagery sessions. So stay tuned. And I'm still putting the final little touches on my website. And I look forward to working with you guys. And we will talk soon. This is Candace, Eclectic Coaching with Candace. Thanks.